It is rare that I am so excited about something that has a name so misleading. Mr. Pi. True? False. It is not a Pi product, not a raspberry or such fruit. It is in fact a clone of the MiSTER FPGA project. You may already know, but the MiSTER FPGA project aims to make emulation as simple, accurate, and comprehensive as possible. And at the core of this project has been the DE10 Nano, a development FPGA board that is inside of every MiSTER system. The problem with that is that since its rise in popularity, it's more than doubled in price, which made buying a MiSTER system with all the accessories, which we'll get into later, quite expensive. Until today, Taki Udon, a retro modding console enthusiast YouTuber, has commissioned the creation of the DE10 Nano clone board, the Mr. Pi, which in theory is supposed to be a drop-in replacement for the DE10 Nano with a couple changes that actually might make it the better option, even though it's less than half the price. I'm so excited. I've been excited about this thing ever since I've heard about it. I genuinely didn't know if it was ever gonna hit the market. I thought that this might just be one of those, not a wet dream. I guess I have to take apart one of these MiSTERs. These ones are just shells. This is my personal MiSTER that I have for a different reason here. I'm just gonna pull it apart and they're the same. Here's the Mr. Pi and this is the DE10 Nano. Different color PCB, green's usually the cheapest. The I/O is mostly the same, although the big upgrade in my opinion is going from a barrel jack for power to Type-C. And that is Type-C with PD, so it can accept 5 to 12 volt power and it'll lower the voltage if you're giving it more than 5 volts. Very convenient, especially if you start to accessorize your MiSTER with a bunch of boards. You could have just one USB power block and kind of split out your power that way. Huge fan of Type-C. I know that was a question early on, but I'm glad we are doing away with the barrel jack. You'll notice a few other changes with the I/O. We still have Ethernet, but next to that we have Type-C instead of Mini B, which is a very nice upgrade. I haven't had a Mini B device since a PS3, although I guess that is kind of retro. And then we have a Type A instead of Micro B. That one is also very nice. Micro B sucks. Micro and Mini B suck, gotta say. Type C for the win. This side mostly the same. On this side, we have our Type C instead of barrel, HDMI, which is great. I believe it's up to like about 1500p without any of the scanline effects, which is very nice. And then instead of our debug, we have what I can assume is some kind of serialized pins. If you know what that is, you let me know. In terms of their primary FPGA processor, we have the Altera Cyclone 5 on both. I've heard rumors that these might be poles from recycled chips, but I haven't seen that confirmed, so who knows? I also haven't seen any big reliability issues except for one thing, which we'll get into. On the top, we have the same dip switches, toggles, and then serial connectors or the expansion ports so that you can install upgrades for RAM, which is necessary for some of the consoles. Very nice. The only thing I'll point out is that the SD card slot is the same spot on the bottom. Mine has its SD card in it. Ours, we will have to configure once we've installed all the rest of our accessories. Let's take a look. First off, I glossed over it a little bit before. This packaging is adorable. This Master System themed inner boxes, and even the PS1 inspired retro remake logo. I'm a fan of committing to the retroness. Let's start with the I/O board, which at first glance looks pretty similar to the MiSTER add-on's similar purpose board that I have. Slightly different connections. Again, green PCB instead of the black PCB. I like the look of the black PCB a little bit more, but if your case isn't transparent, that isn't gonna matter. We have our buttons. I don't wanna spend the whole time comparing it. There's a million different options. This is the MiSTER Pro add-on board, and the reason you would add something like this on is, power buttons instead of having to hard switch off your MiSTER on and off with an external switch. You can do it with this board that'll connect and control this using these buttons, but also you can have analog output. And so a big advantage of MiSTER is that you can get really clean digital signal to a modern display. And so you get games rendered at their native resolution, but then they're upscaled very cleanly, or not even, you can even send like the native resolution through HDMI to a digital connection and then do whatever you want with it. Digital is great for signal splitting, capture, all kinds of stuff. But there's a lot of cases, if you're a retro enthusiast, you want an analog connection. And that's where this VGA port comes in. If you want to connect to a CRT or an older display, it's a lot easier to have that conversion happen inside of the MiSTER box than to have a separate box, although those separate boxes can also be excellent. This gives you high quality analog video as well as 24-bit audio, which is great if you want the absolute most out of these retro systems. It also includes a cooling fan, which is nice. You can passively cool the MiSTER, and I'm guessing as well the MiSTER Pi, but you need an aluminum case that has the heatsink going all the way down to spread that heat. And even then, I'm a big fan of fans, and this one's an RGB one, it looks like. That's really nice. One of the advantages of the MiSTER Pi and that ecosystem is that it's the cheapest of everything available, and I know it's gonna be compatible, and so you get that peace of mind. My MiSTER doesn't need this, but this one occupies one of the expansion slots to connect to the I/O board. Not a huge deal. I kinda like the look of that, actually. It's like a tasty ass sandwich. Next up, we have the USB expansion, which adds 7 USB ports with 2 power ones. These are really, really nice if you want to keep your MiSTER size down. I used to have one that was kind of split into 2 boxes where my USB hub was separate, and then it's just more cables going in. This is very, very clean. These pins just go into this, which is really nice. Oh, it looks so tasty. I just want to take a bite. I need to install standoffs. As it is right now, this sandwich be a toppling. Also, metal touching pins on the backside is usually not ideal. Oh, there they are. There's my standoffs and my screws. Let's see what else is in this box. We got our Wi-Fi dongle, which is really nice. The MiSTER can actually update over the internet, so you don't have to do an SD card update each time. You can also set it up as an FTP server to drag games over very easily. And this will also act as a Bluetooth dongle so that you can connect your Bluetooth controllers. Although in terms of latency, wired or a 2.4 gigahertz dongle will probably give you a better result. But that's nice flexibility. We also have our RAM upgrade. I have never used a MiSTER without the RAM expansion. They are basically essential for PS1, N64, and Saturn, you know, all that modern 5th gen stuff. That's just gonna slide on there once I remember what the orientation is. This side faces outward. That is so helpful. Take a look at that. I have heard that there are QC issues with the RAM in the sense that they are supposed to go up to 150 megahertz, and some were having troubles cracking 125, 130. The good news is the response from Taki seems to be absolutely excellent. They've tried to replicate the issue, and the issue seems to be less a RAM specific issue and more of a combo board RAM compatibility issue. They've been an absolute champion for making sure people are getting what they pay for, even though what they're paying is just a fraction of what competitors are offering. The last 2 things in our box are an acrylic base as well as this is a really nice Type-C cable, dang. This does not have all the pins. This is just gonna be good for power, which is fantastic. That's all I need for this. The acrylic base is nice. It allows you to run this MiSTER without any extra add-ons. I would recommend in the long term getting a shell, either the acrylic one that they sell for $15 as part of this kit, or there's tons of options that exist. MiSTER FPGA is a pretty mature ecosystem at this point. Retro Castle is great. I like the MiSTER add-on stuff. So there's also the MiSTER multi-system stuff. And the nice thing is that the primary product, the MiSTER Pi, will work with all of them. And that's what's friggin' awesome about this. Just cutting the cost, helping the consumer, making MiSTER a much more attractive option for so many people. Man, let's get this thing installed and play some games, but not before I tell you about our sponsor.
Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Are you too hairy? Manscaped can help with their Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. It includes the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra for below-the-belt trimming with its 2 interchangeable blades, the Weed Whacker 2.0 for your ears and nose, and even their Crop Soother and Crop Preserver lotions for your after-cut care. Grab their package for your package over at manscaped.com/circuit and use code CIRCUIT for 20% off and free shipping.
Finishing the assembly now, they include extra standoffs, which is actually a very nice touch. I've had the issue before where I lose a screw or something and you kind of have things floating a little more than you'd like. You don't need the acrylic, it looks like. It has its own little feet. I don't love having no case, but for testing it out and taking a look at it, it's pretty cool to see all of these different pieces of tech just sandwiched together. It's pretty nifty. One thing I didn't mention because I thought the accessory came with this package is this blue USB port. This is because this isn't actually a USB port in the sense that it carries the same data. It's actually a SNAC port, SNAC, and this is great for latency-free conversion of an old controller to something the MiSTER can understand. There's adapters that exist that go directly from Super Nintendo port to SNAC or PS1 to SNAC. The Turbo Pack does come with the Super Nintendo to SNAC adapter as well as a shell. That would definitely be the pack that I would select for myself, but that is sold out, and I expect that this is gonna be sold out for a long time just because of the value proposition. But how does it play? Let's find out. With the MiSTER assembled, all we had to do was follow the guide on GitHub, get the software updated, games that we've legally backed up onto this system, and we are away playing one of my all-time favorites, unlicensed Nintendo game. Because this is the unboxing of the MiSTER Pi, not the Pi, we're not gonna go too in-depth into the features of the MiSTER ecosystem, which is what this is still using, that software, that open source project. But I can tell you it's a legless experience. It's visually flawless. There's tons of options. I mean, let's look at it a little bit. So we can change, our aspect ratio. We can put different scaling modes. Depending on the TV I'm on, I actually like these HQ modes. There's an HQ3 mode you can get that's not installed by default that I actually quite like on a real CRT. It kind of makes it look extra HD for some reason. But it's a very much a personal preference thing. And on the system level, you can set direct output, which means that the games will output at their native resolution, meaning that you can have upscaling happen 100% outside. We've done a video on the RetroTink 4K, which the MiSTER is a perfect pairing for. You go native resolution of your MiSTER, HDMI to your RetroTink at native resolution, and that does all the work, and it gives you the best result overall. But that becomes a very expensive combo. The nice thing is that this is gonna be cheaper than doing the original MiSTER, and it's gonna be cheaper by a large amount than the Mars FPGA project when that comes out. There's not much to say. The MiSTER experience is a flawless one. It takes a little bit of setup to get going, but the MiSTER Pi project actually simplifies it over figuring it all out yourself. All the information is in one place. Compatibility is a non-issue. All that is worried about for you. And so minimizing what I think is, arguably the weakness of the MiSTER ecosystem makes this an even more compelling product. Let's play some Tetris Attack. That's gonna be good for, detecting input latency, although this monitor is a very old, crappy LCD monitor and has its own large amount of input latency put in. It's so funny, there's just like sweet spots of retro things. Like you don't want early LCD, you want late CRT, and that's about it. Wait, this is a Tetris? I just love the MiSTER project. It makes it so convenient, so easy. I definitely miss original hardware a little bit. I've very recently parted with a lot of my original hardware, but I think for a lot of people, it's the convenience and the simplicity of it will trump getting old analog video formats to work with a modern display or hoarding CRTs. And this is really the best way to play retro games. The thing I haven't really done is play more modern systems, like this N64 or the Saturn on a MiSTER. And so I'm very curious to try that. It's been my Genesis and Super Nintendo machine for a long time. I gotta say, Game Boy Advance games do not scale well on 1080p displays. They need to be on tiny screens. Speaking of, that's kind of the next dream product we're waiting for on Taki. They already have a Switch Lite OLED upgrade kit where you can convert a Switch Lite to an OLED screen and it looks a lot better. And now they have this MiSTER FPGA clone. I want them to combine and make a handheld MiSTER to compete with the Analog Pocket. The Analog Pocket's okay, but I feel like it's a little underpowered for doing some of the more heavy duty FPGA stuff. And so I would really like to see a portable MiSTER, something that was really slick and easy to use. And I think a lot of people would like that too. Taki, please, please. Like the Super Nintendo, there's not too much to say about this Game Boy Advance experience. It's great, it's flawless. Let's play something a little more challenging. We now have N64 working. What we had to do was configure our update all settings, making sure we're getting our boot ROMs downloaded. There's a screen cap of that right here. That's how you do that. Very cool. We're playing some N64, baby. What I like about it too is everything just kind of works. I'm joking about that, but my controller just works. The rumble was compatible. There's a lot of things that used to be a lot of problem solving and figuring out. And the fact that I was able to just change one setting in a menu, and then this seems to be a pretty flawless experience, although there is definitely whatever the N64 softening filter is hardcore. This is impressive. This works pretty good. I have no complaints about this. Although there's all the analog options, including the new N64 one that was just announced, the Analog 3D, where everything just works out of the box. There's something special with the MiSTER where you pay once and you get everything up to 5th gen. And once it's working, it's very easy and consistent. It definitely is a little more tinkery than a lot of other solutions, including an Analog Pocket. Even jailbreaking that's an easier time than this. But the value you get with this thing, $160 US, that's literally less than the price of just the DE10 Nano, and you get the whole solution, minus a USB power brick. This is absolutely fantastic. Then you can buy other cases, get something more custom and fun for your setup. But this is just an absolutely fantastic value, a great option that is just a win-win-win for consumers all across the board. I am so excited that we got to showcase this. And if this is something that interests you, I highly recommend that you check it out. I've had a great experience with MiSTER stuff. And if I didn't already have my DE10 Nano, I would be getting one of these. These are freaking sweet. It's hard to find something to complain about. It's this, but cheaper. And that's great. That's just fucking awesome. Just like you. If you like retro short circuits, why not check out the one where I unboxed the Analog Retro Duo, which is the TurboGrafx. Very, very cool. I ended up getting one and then I sold it.